AT-AT Commander has finally returned, and he's brought with him a Star Wars game, and that game is Star Wars, the arcade game for your Atari home computer. Let's go ahead and take Star Wars, the arcade game. Let's pop it in my 800 XL and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Star Wars, the arcade game was published by Parker Brothers, and according to MobyGames.com, was released in 1984. It is based on the 1983 popular Atari arcade game. Moby Games gives programming credit for this port to Brad Stewart, who is also given credit for the Atari 2600 classic games Breakout and Asteroids. In an interview with Scott Stilfen, he says he was actually working for Imagic when he started the game, as Parker Brothers had contracted Imagic to do the port. However, when Imagic went out of business, he finished the game as an independent contractor. In the late 80s, Domark would also publish a version of Star Wars the arcade game on cassette and disc for the Atari 8-bits over in Europe. Although the Domark versions appear to have slower, choppier animation, there are some who prefer it, as it uses its extra memory to better replicate the look and experience of the arcade game. But for today, I'll be sticking to this US cartridge port. The back of the box says the following, and I'll put extra emphasis on words they put in all caps. It's the challenging action of Star Wars, the arcade game. Here, an exciting home video game featuring 3 different screens. You are at the controls of Luke's X-Wing fighter, heading straight for the Death Star. Your mission, to destroy it before the Empire seeks its revenge on the Rebel base. Lock your sights on attacking TIE fighters and blast them with your proton torpedoes. Race along the Death Star's surface, firing on giant towers. Finally, dive full throttle into the Death Star's equatorial trench. You'll need split-second timing to avoid all the obstacles as you sneak through the trench in search of the main reactor. Hit it and you've blown the Death Star out of existence. May the Force be with you! Star Wars the arcade game is a first-person rail-style space shooter for one player only. You can use the Option key to select a starting point from the first 3 waves. Use the joystick to move in the ladder sections and to move your crosshair, using up to move down and down to move up. The button fires your weapon. The spacebar pauses the game. You start the game with 9 shield points. You lose a point if you crash into something or are hit by enemy fire. The hitbox for your X-Wing is not super clear, but it helped me to draw an imaginary rectangle using my guns as corner points. If you are hit with no shield, your game is over. Every time you blow up the Death Star, you get 3 extra shield points, capping off at 9 at the most. The first phase has you shooting down TIE fighters and their fireballs that they shoot at you. The second phase shows up in Wave 2 and beyond. In it, you avoid laser towers and their fireballs while trying to shoot their tops off. The upper right shows you the number of operational towers, and if you miss one, it may come back around for another shot. Destroy all the towers before the end of the phase and you get 50,000 bonus points. Just be careful you don't crash into one while trying to hit it, which can be easy to do. The last phase is the beloved trench run. You'll need to avoid fireballs, and starting in Wave 3, catwalks. You destroy the Death Star by shooting the main reactor port. If you miss, you'll need to wait for it to come back around again. The words "Use the Force" will appear at the beginning of this phase. They go away after your first shot. If you use the Force by not firing until you use a single shot to destroy the Death Star, you will get bonus points. After destroying the Death Star, you get some bonus points along with your extra shield points and move on to the next, usually more difficult wave. Scoring-wise, you get 1,000 points for destroying a TIE fighter, 33 points for destroying their fireballs. During the laser tower section, you get 200 points for shooting the top off of the first laser tower. Then every other tower gets an additional 200 points. So the first is worth 200, the second 400, the next 600, and so on. And of course, if you destroy all the towers in a phase, you get 50,000 bonus points. The number of points you get for destroying the Death Star depends on which wave you start on and which wave it is. If you start on Wave 1, if you destroy the Death Star in Waves 1 through 3, you get 10,000 points, 4 through 5, you get 65,000 points, and Wave 6 and up, you get 150,000 points. If you start on Wave 2, you get 65,000 points for destroying the Death Star in Waves 2 through 5, and then 6 and up is worth 150,000 points. And if you start on Wave 3, you get 150,000 points every time you destroy the Death Star. When you destroy the Death Star, you will also get 5,000 bonus points for every remaining energy shield unit. If you successfully use the Force to destroy the Death Star by completing the phase with only one single shot, you will get 5,000 points in Wave 1, 10,000 in Wave 2, 15,000 in Wave 3, 25,000 in Wave 4, 50,000 in Wave 5, and 100,000 points for Wave 6 and above. Graphically speaking, while it can't replicate the original vector graphics, I thought that the game overall did a good job, although the presentation before and after the game is basically non-existent. Even a top 10 score list would have been nice. I was, however, disappointed in the sound and music department. The sounds are kind of generic sounding, and while the musical Star Wars ditty that plays before the first phase was good, the game could have really used some more music, especially considering the iconic soundtrack and the capabilities of the Atari 8-bit computers. Even repeating that ditty in between phases would have helped. Family-friendly wise, the game would most likely get an E for everyone rating if released today. Currently at PriceCharting.com, the game has a value of $35 loose, $72 complete, and $138 new. So what did I think of Star Wars, the arcade game for the Atari 8-bit computers? I found it to be a bit of a mixed bag. There is a learning curve to getting used to the controls and the hitbox, but it doesn't last too long. The graphics are good, but as I mentioned, the sound is lacking. I do think that the firing could have been improved. There were many times in the first phase that I felt that I had TIE fighters lined up perfectly in my target, but no hit registered. And the cursor itself feels a bit stiff to move at times. It's also a short game, usually lasting me under 10 minutes per game, so it's good for short play sessions, but doesn't encourage a lot of replayability. It does capture the Star Wars vibe, and I did enjoy it while playing, but it's not the deepest experience. In the end, I wouldn't say it's a must-have, but it is a game I could return to every now and then. So where am I going to rank Star Wars the arcade game? I'm looking somewhere in the middle of my rankings of previously reviewed Atari 8-bit titles. I do like Q*bert more at 12, but I will put this over Serpentine at 13. So out of the 23 games I've now ranked for the Atari 8-bit computer, Star Wars the arcade game is battling TIE fighters at the 13th position. Star Wars the arcade game could have been better, but it still offers Star Wars fun for the Atari 8-bit computers. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to see you next time on the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.